The crazy penguin teaches you Linux. Nixnoob.com.
Welcome to Nixnoob. In this video we're going to be covering some Linux basics. And this is going to be pretty low level stuff. You don't need to know how to do any of this to use a Linux computer. You can use it just like it's a Windows computer and never open a terminal and never do any of this stuff. But this is going to be very low level stuff. So feel free to skip this video if this does not interest you. But this is basically kind of how your computer works. So the first thing is we have environment variables. And this is also true in Windows and Mac OS. You have environment variables in those operating systems as well. But in Linux, it's real easy to temporarily change those or permanently change those. I'm going to zoom way in here. And so we have a couple of commands we can use to print out our environment variables. One is print env. And so here's a bunch of environment variables. One that's really important here is path. And path is where our computer is going to look for programs. I could also do a just echo and do, or no, actually just env, I believe will print out. Yep, prints out the same stuff. And we could pipe that into a pager like less. And now we can search for path. And there we go. You can see X session path. I can just hit slash again, and it's going to find the next one. And I can just keep going through it like that. And there's path. So those are the environment variables that currently exist. I'm going to Q to get out of that. And so what we just did, taking the output of one program and piping it into another program, less is basically a pager. And we could... well, anyway, we were using standard input and output. We were taking the standard output of the env program and piping that to standard input on less, which is a pager, which allows us to scroll through a buffer and also search the buffer and a lot of stuff. We could man less to see what all less does and go through the manual page here for less. And I'm going to make a separate video on like the most common Linux commands. I think that'll be probably my next Linux basics video. So like a part 2 to this video. So we can run the manual. We can also ask our computer where that less command is. We would just say which less, and we can see that's in user bin less. So we can also print out just a single environment variable, and we would just go echo, and then we need a $sign because we want it to interpolate the variable, and path, and that's going to print out the path. So this is everywhere it's going to look for programs, and we can add to our system and put our own programs in there if we wanted to. I could make a quick example here with like a quick Perl filter. So one thing, if I go into, let me just make a directory. So right now I'm in my current directory. If I ls, it's just my documents and that stuff. If I were going to add to my system, I'd probably want to make a personal like bin directory where I could put stuff and then add that directory to my path. So I'm just going to make a directory here called bin. And then I am going to cd into that. And then I am going to, I'm going to use Vim. I could also use Nano. Nano is a really easy to use. Let me start with Nano. Nano is a really easy to use text editor. And Vim's a lot more powerful, but it's like got multiple modes and it's a little harder to use, but it's a lot more powerful. So anyway, I'm going to make a new, I'm just going to call this test Perl. So I'm going to go Nano. Actually, I'll call it Perl test, or let's say we're going to make a filter that just removes all the numbers from any input we give it. So I'm just going to call this redact number, redact nums, redact nums. And so normally if we were writing a Perl script, we would add the extension, and we can do this in Python as well. I will just do, so normally we would do PL for Perl. And then we're just going to, well, right now let's just make this do a hello world. So I'm just going to say print hello world. Print hello world. And do a new line, and that's it. And I'm going to save that. So in Nano, we hit Control X. It tells us down at the bottom kind of what to do. So I'll hit Control X, and yes, I want to save that. And there we go. So to run this right now, we would have to do Perl, which is our interpreter, and then redact nums.pl, and that's gonna print hello world. We can change this and tell it where our path to Perl is, and that's called like a shebang line, and this works with any interpreted language. If we want to be able to run this without having to call the interpreter first, we can add a shebang line to it that tells it what interpreter to use, and then we can make it executable and remove the extension. And right now that wouldn't work. Right now if I did, /redact nums, I can't tab complete. That's not a thing. And if I do redact nums and type it all out, that's going to tell me no such file or directory. And if I just tell it .pl, same thing, permission denied, that's not an executable script. We could make it executable. I'll just do chmod, and I'll say user group other plus executable for redact. So chmod, we can man chmod. You can either use like bit mask, like numbers, like 775 or 555 or whatever, to set the user group and other permissions. You can also use user group and other and then plus or minus. So if I wanted to remove write permissions from the group and other, I could say go minus write and then the name of the file, and that would remove those permissions. And to look at the permissions, we can just do an ls, and if we do an al, it'll show us the permissions. So the very first part of that dash RWX, that's readable, writable, executable, readable, writable, executable, readable, and executable. So it's not writable by the other user group, but it is writable by the group and the user. And we can see the first nixnoob, that is the user. The second nixnoob, that is the group. So we could change that to be a different group and give, other users that are in a particular group certain permissions on that file. And then the last one, the other, is all users regardless of their group. So right now only the nixnoob user or users in the nixnoob group can read or write to that file. Anyway, I'm going to probably go off on a million tangents. I need a little stamp that says branch. Anyway, so now that's executable. And if I, same thing, do a /redact, now it auto completes, but it doesn't know how to run that. And so it gives me an error. So to fix that, we can go nano again, redact nums pl, and we'll just, I'm so used to being in VIM, I want to hit I to go into insert mode here. So we do number sign exclamation point, and that's like shebang, and then our path to Perl, which is user bin Perl. I think that's right. Then I want to say yes, save that. Let's see, which Perl? User bin Perl. Okay, and that's the path we gave it. So now that it knows how to run itself, we can remove the .pl extension from that. So we'll just do move redact PL to redact and get rid of the extension. So from the command line, if you want to rename something, you just basically move it to a new name. Move is how you rename a file from the command line. Okay, so we've got move redact nums pl, and we rename that. So if I do an ls here, we'll see we just have the redact nums. And now if I go / redact nums, now it knows how to run without me having to tell it to use Perl. So now this is ready to put in our path, but let's make it do something, well, for right now, let's leave it the way it is. We'll make it do something a little more interesting in a minute. So right now, if I was not in my bin directory, like if I cd ~/ I'm back in my home directory, and I do / redact, what is it, redact nums, it's not going to be able to find it. It doesn't know where that is. We need to put that somewhere in our path that our computer is looking at for programs. So we can echo path again. And so it's looking in user local sban, user local bin, user sban, user bin. So one thing we could do is we could put a symlink from where it's at to one of those. And I can do that real quick. So if I just cd user bin, and then I just need to man ln because I always forget. So it's a target and then the link name. Okay, so I'm going to do a ln-s, which is a symbolic link, and then I'm going to link to /home nixnoob. That's in our bin directory, and that is redact nums, and I'm going to point that to, let's see. Okay, good. We have a space there. I'm going to point that to just redact nums. Now it's going to yell at me because I don't have permissions to do that. So it failed to create a symbolic link because I'm trying to do this in the user bin directory and I don't have permissions to do that. So I'm going to sudo, tell it to do that again, type in my password. And now if I ls here, well, we'd have to grep that, ls grep redact. There we go. We have our redact nums program symlinked. If I do a ls -l grep redact, you'll see that that's a symlink. So it shows us that this is pointing to shows us that that's pointing to home nixnew bin redact nums. So now if I open a new shell, I don't think it'll work in this one. I think you have to open a new shell before that takes effect. But let me go zoom in again. And now if I just do redact nums, it works. So we just added a program to our list of programs that our computer's looking for. Personally, if I was going to be doing a lot of this, I wouldn't want to have to go in and symlink each one in the user bin directory. So what I would do is just add that bin path permanently to the user bin directory. We can do that temporarily. So let me just go ls here. I'm going to sudo rm to remove that symlink, and that's just redact nums. Okay, so now that's gone from our user bin directory. So now I am going to just, I can go back to my normal path, cd, and go back to the bin directory. Okay, so now if we echo our path again, that needs to be uppercase. We can see that my nixnoob, like home nixnoob bin, is not in this path. We can just export that, and we just do an export, and that's path equals, we want to do our $ path, and then add to it. And if you have spaces in your directories, then you would want to put this in a quote, double quote. But so the path is going to get interpolated to be our full path that we already have. So the string right above that, basically all of this is going to get filled in right here. And now all we have to do is add our path, which is home nixnoob bin, like that. Now if I go echo path, $, path. Now you can see home Nick's new bin is in there. There we go. Okay, so now that's working. Let's go. I'm going to go into VIM and do redact nums. And we're just gonna, now this is Perl, so this is gonna look a little weird. Because Perl is basically line noise, but it's really good at processing standard input, standard output. So I'm just going to do a while, and then in Perl, greater than, less than is basically going to automatically iterate over standard input. And then for standard output, we could just print out what we want. So I'm going to say, and $_ is magically filled with each like line that it's iterating over. So I could say that equals tilde substitution. I want to match any digit, and then I'm going to replace that with an X. And that's going to be global. I don't even think I need that, but I'll just do that. And then do print $_ and end my while loop there. And then this is VIM, so I have to escape write quit. Now, if we were to type something like echo testing 1, 2, 3, and we pipe that into redact nums, redact. Now we get testing XXX. Let's just play with that more. Testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1 space 2, 3. Okay, so you can see all the numbers are being replaced with X's. So we just wrote a little script that we can pipe through. I'm going to pipe that out to a file and just say, I still want to pipe it to redact nums, but now I want to output that to just test.txt. And I'm still in my bin folder here, but let me just open that up. So my bin folder here, and then if we open this up in Kate, you can see that we've got that text file there. So now we've got a filter that we can pipe stuff through. Let's make that permanent. So I'm using bash, and when we print out our environment variables, it'll tell us what like terminal we're using. I can just hit env again, and we can see terminal. Where are you? It's in here. But by default, so my shell has been bash. By default on Kubuntu, you're going to be using bin bash for your shell. So basically, we can go to our bash RC file. If I cd to my just directory and then do lsal, that's going to show me everything in here. There is a .bash RC file in here. Let's just grep that for bash. There we go. There's a bash RC. So we can just go edit that. I'm going to go into vim.bashrc. And I'm going to go down to the end of this file. So I was already at the end of the file, but this is a script that runs anytime we basically open a new shell script, and it basically sets up our environment. So we're just going to say insert and say export, just kind of like we did. Path equals, and then do $path home Nick's new bin, and that's it. Escape, write quit. So now if I open a new terminal and zoom in, so that's really big, and do echo $path. That should be there. And now when we reboot, that'll be there. So now I can put any program I want in the bin folder in my user directory, and that'll like any program that I put in there will be found, and I can use it from the command line. So that's kind of how everything works. And all the tools that are in there, your ls, which ls, let's just add user bin ls. We can man ls and see how to use that, et cetera, et cetera. So this is how we can actually expand our system, and there's no end to what, like, we could use this to do anything we want. If we wanted to write a filter that we can just pipe a like an image through, and it would remove the EXIF data. Like if we want to, before we send a picture somewhere, want to remove like our location and our camera and all that kind of information, we could write a Python or Perl script to strip that information out and then just add that to our path. If we wanted to redact some information for real, like maybe addresses or phone numbers, or we could make a filter the same way we just did, and filter a document. If you'd like to see another like version of this video using Python, let me know. I'd be happy to make a Python version of this, like how to write a filter with Python. But basically, it's standard input, standard output. So you would just want to look, in Python, how do I read from standard output, and how do I write to standard output, and that's it. And you can create programs and add them to your default path. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next video, I will be just asking AI what the most common Linux commands are, adding a few that I use daily, and going over each one of those, and showing you how to use standard Linux commands. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.